is this, right? Okay, yeah. Okay, first thing we're gonna watch today is analyzing the sound design of Balatro, okay? This is actually a game that has been requested for me to play a lot. Okay, we have to wait because I have a ton of games to play yet, and yeah, but I'll play it, don't worry.
Thinking about it. Meet base 44.
First, hello cutie patootie, yes, you're first. Thank you for the cute tiny emotes, you're adorable. Okay, what quality is this? Nah, bro. HD, man. Okay. What? No way! No way! What is this? They've cut off the lamp cards! You download the demo, it's still downloading, bro. It will take, it's down 50%. Oh my god, no way they have, like, cut off the lamp card. That's so slay. You know? Why can't you use the card?
I spoke about the tactile nature of certain sounds in a game's soundtrack. Everything feels tactile here, like a food with a nice mouthfeel.
Okay.
Mochi, maybe a nice sausage.
Peach sausage. Weird.
Well, there's plenty of examples of that mechanical feeling in music, like this hammer effect you can hear in the piano in this lovely song. Or the hammers you can much more
not
obviously
understand,
hear
okay.
in one of my own songs.
Ooh, that's nice. Nah, that's cool, I like it.
That is an incredibly niche thing that most people don't consciously appreciate when listening to music. To be honest, a lot of you might not even really know what I mean when I say tactile. Most people might not even notice if something is tactile in the music they listen to. And frankly, it'd be really, really silly if I dedicated an entire video to something as subjective as this. So instead, I'm doing any...
Oh, wait, already an ad? Jesus Christ. Okay.
Even sillier idea and dedicating an entire video to one game's use of that feeling. Have you ever played a game where it feels like they just thought of everything?
Yes.
Yeah, me neither. But I have played plenty of games where sound is a big driving factor that makes the game
think there are games that people thought a lot on when making it, but okay.
But I'm talking like the different blocks making different sounds when you walk
yeah,
on
that's
them,
good.
place them in Minecraft, identifying bugs by their unique calls in Deep Rock Galactic, the clicks and the clocks of the mechanical pieces of a gun when inspecting them or reloading them in any COD game. The M1 Garand specifically. The entirety of Balatro. Oh yeah, we're talking about Balatro.
Yeah, but this, what do they do?
His excellent funk fusion cover of the Balatro main theme. His channel and video will be linked in the description, so go listen to the music right now. What are those cards? Bro, is that on the game? Also, shouts out to the hard work by KF 2015, where they generated something like 216,000 individual frames to make up this Balatro background that I've been using. So they'll also be in the description, and let's get into the gambling.
Gambling? What?
God, where do I even
they all have crossover car skins. No way! Oh my god, slay!
It's the simplest.
Nah, bro, I'm gonna love that game then.
And right off the bat, I would describe basically every menu and UI element in this game as analog. Much like how clicky and mechanical everything sounds on older pieces of hardware. The clicky and mechanical feel that makes collectors absolutely feel.
Wait, how do I make a clicky sound? I don't have nothing here to make click, I'm sorry.
I'm not gonna type online, but you get the point. Turns out the ASMR culture has
hydration, thank you.
Credit for, because when a thing sounds nice or has a unique sound to it, we tend to want to keep playing with it and we want to keep using it. You know, in hindsight, maybe attributing this to the ASMR community specifically was a bit disingenuous, since I know the majority of it just comes from the ADHD response, but I can say ASMR community because
there's so many cards. Oh my god.
Like Balatro, you just might have ADHD. The only other unique sounds that you'll hear before actually starting a round will be the slightly softer and slightly more full-bodied when you hover over the locked card on the main menu, or a deck in the play screen. The when a card gets Thanos snapped off the screen, and the that plays when you exit to the main menu or load into a new run.
Okay, I'm still trying to understand this video, but okay, let's proceed.
The collection, on the other hand, now that is where it gets juicy. And by juicy, I really just mean that there's a few extra fun tidbits that I didn't realize were in there, and I just wanted to point them out. There's, of course, the aforementioned when you hover over any of the cards in the collection, tarot and planet included. But I think the biggest kicker for me is that I wasn't expecting that to hold true through every part of the collection. It even extends to your stats. Any card I hover over makes the sound, and while it's nothing special after hearing it 1,000 times, it is still a really fun touch that was included.
Yeah, I like sounds. Sounds are cool.
Crinkling sound that, coupled with the materialization,
sometimes sounds are so good to hear. I don't know. It depends on the sounds.
Sort of crinkling that plastic that the cards came in before ogling it, whatever you just unwrapped. But the real things that caught my attention here were actually the tags and the blinds section, each with their own respective sounds.
I don't understand any of this game yet, so I don't know what these things are.
Plasticky sound like digging through a bin of children's toys, and the blinds with the ultra satisfying.
Luigi, what the heck?
But hey, we've been here for long enough, so I think it's time that we actually play some poker. Oh wow, look at that. Even the card flip has its own transition noise. I also never realized that hovering over these skips.
Okay, this game looks really hard though.
Plasticky noise. We'll skip
People are saying that it's like that game I played last week, Get Young. But Get Young, it's different, okay? It's a masterpiece. This is looks so hard. It's full of numbers and letters and stuff. Get Young, it's just, you know, slay.
Stop trying to bring back memories.
Maybe I'm thinking too hard, maybe.
That same sound will also play when you acquire a new tarot card, planet card, or joker card via the
tarot card. Oh, okay, yeah, I'm seeing the tarot card.
I know I already spoke on the sound effect that plays when you hover over cards, but man, hearing them in rapid succession when you sweep over your hand is a whole different level of satisfying. And don't even get me started on the sounds.
Don't tell me there are people that just play this game because of the sound design.
With a nice and a much more subtle. I think I may have accidentally.
You know, I actually would understand that.
Equals better. But the clicking of selecting cards
that sounds so good. You know,
such a strong transient punch to it.
Sound
and the
good,
general tone
slay.
of the clicking is honestly really well designed. Maybe it's the fact that the clicking of each card brings a small amount of dopamine in and of itself because you're either selecting a bunch of cards to discard in favor of ones that might net you a better score, or those same cards are your big point scoring hand. So it's almost kind of like a preemptive build-up to the heavy bings and bongs that will win you the round.
Jesus Christ!
Finally, 2,000
bucks, man. I don't know. I never played poker, so probably I don't understand much about this.
Fantastic.
Jesus Christ!
Kind of like a bunch of stiff cards being cracked like a whip off the back of the rest of the deck. And if that hand is a winner, then that sound will play a bunch of times in a very quick span of time, so it fills up your ears like a bunch of rocks being dropped on your headphones. That sounds kind of... No, that doesn't sound very nice.
Yeah, that doesn't sound very nice. Depends what types of rock is, you know. There's like
I won.
Tiny rocks, big rocks, they're all different.
The most relaxing.
What the heck? What is this?
What if there was a game? No pay.
I'm sorry for the ad.
Oh man, if you thought the cash register noise was satisfying,
oh wait, this looks like Get Young.
To me, it sounds a little bit better than the cash register sound, just because.
Oh yeah, it looks like it. The system of buying cards in the end of the round. Okay, okay.
Sea of Thieves, but the dopamine hit from this money gained sound effect is infinitely more rewarding to the brain because $3 in Balatro means a hell of a lot more than like 50 gold in Sea of Thieves.
What the heck? Why so expensive?
The game has a little repeating money noise for every dollar accumulated at the end of each round. And they also have a much more obvious when the game is calculating how much money you earned at the end of the round, and it quite literally sounds like someone took their pocket change.
Okay, you have to get the specific score. Okay, I'm understanding now. Okay, I guess
I will also say the same
I'm understanding
sound effect
a bit.
That you hear also plays when you spend money, but, and this might be the most privileged thing I've ever said, it feels good to spend money, especially when that money spent equates to your next big power spike to further the strength of your run.
I'm getting it.
Honestly, the most consistent thing to talk about in the shop is the fact that almost every piece of text that appears on screen as if it was a part of a set piece also has its own version of the typing noise. Most of the time I kind of just forget that the game basically types out its signs like improve your run, but eventually your brain will kind of just subconsciously make the connection between
I don't even know how to play these normal cards. Imagine playing poker. Jesus Christ.
That said, I'm not only going to talk about the text because that's boring as hell. We finally get into the potatoes of the shop. The card packs. The that plays when you open any of them, mimicking the anticipation of your next
Why are
big
they
joker
all
that's
breaking
definitely
out
gonna
the
change your
cards?
run.
Why
The
are
first
they
planet
like
card
that?
set you up on your journey to have the highest score, or your next
Ooh.
tarot pack to finally help set your economy up. I love the... Because it's also the closest thing to gambling that my brain will
Those
enjoy.
are so
Similar
weird
to all of
cards,
you heathen
man.
viewers indulging
But they
in your
look so
fucking gacha
cool.
games.
Like, they are
Even
also
in just
different.
the pack opening portion of the game, each one of these cards can do incredible things. And no, I'm not talking about the effects that each one of the cards have, but rather the sounds that they make when they do it. The sounds of jokers becoming foil, holographic, polychrome, or negative are so ear-catching that even if you have just a Balatro video or stream up in the background, this guy's my favorite, you almost can't help but diverge your attention from being productive or whatever else you're doing to see what they got, because surely it's something game-changing, right? Or maybe it's just another 8-ball. When you open the tarot packs, you can do all sorts of powerful shit with them, like give yourself more money, banish cards to the nether realms, or even affix them with powerful abilities like gaining extra chips, extra mult, a chance at making this little guy become stronger, and so many more. Again, while all of these are powerful, I'm not here to talk about the game, really. This is a sound design video, so just listen to how satisfying the card flip is.
Man, if I'm gonna make a game,
it's enough to make
I have to actually pay attention to sound design, okay.
When used, level up your poker hand to make them a little bit stronger.
I think my Kitty Potato is also working on that in his game. I don't know. I never made a game like this.
Chips and malt. And this is one of the few sounds that can get annoying if you, say, have a Perkio up and for some reason you decide that you just want to consume all of your planet cards back to back to back to back to back, and then you'll be hearing for a little while, almost to a tiring extent.
Okay, what does it do, the card?
There is actually one more thing that you can do with your cards that I haven't mentioned,
ball there.
but for the purposes of highlighting its wonderful sound, we actually have to wait until we find a very specific card pack that we're looking for. Once you're in a round beyond the first, you'll likely have at least one joker that will add chips, plus mult, or X mult, and that's where the really addictive part of Balatro starts, with each set of chips triggering a, each plus mult triggering a, and each X mult triggering a... By itself, it's nothing too crazy, just an auditory reminder of what your joker is supposed to be doing, once again creating that feedback loop of positive reinforcement to just keep doing the thing. The really crazy shit starts when you have a full set of jokers and a sizable deck full of enhanced cards, with each one of them basically triggering their own.
Ooh.
And
Jesus.
each of these comboing with the ascending pitch as you get more and more triggers of said.
Okay, this sounds really cool.
And eventually you'll get to the point where the game will speed up to account for how long your hand has been scoring, meaning that and almost become a stream of auditory information, like a bell that's a little too resonant and rings out for way too long. But in this game, the ringing is a sign that your build is actually doing something good.
My god, look at the score, Jesus!
Because you didn't want to go to church as a kid. Like, why the hell do I have to wake up so early for some dude that ain't never done shit for me? And eventually that sentiment leads you to the burning pits of hell, just like the burning of the chips in the malt once your hand exceeds the amount of points required to beat the blind, and suddenly the ringing tone sounds much more saturated, and boy howdy, you really, really should see what the longest hand in vanilla Balatro looks like.
Jesus! Oh my!
Start, you get to pick a shelter freely. Once chosen, there is no going back.
The game doesn't crash though, please. Oh.
Does that do anything? Okay. So this is what we got. We got 4 copies.
Oh my.
3 copies mine. We have a Polychrome Baron. We did Polychrome Mine to account for. We had the 1 activation. So times 1.5 here. With 717 kings held in hand. You can't see it, but it's on the left side of the screen here.
Jesus.
It's E9.
What is that now? Okay.
Alright, we're back in the shop a second time, and I want to take this time to additionally mention a couple more sounds that different types of cards make. I already mentioned some things that you can do with them in the last shop, from enhancing them to give you more chips, mult, or money, all the way to just straight up killing
These
them.
look so
But on
slime.
top of that, you can also turn them into wild cards to make them basically every suit. Turn them gold to give you $3.
These ones look like a cool DS game.
Turn them to stone to remove their suit. And
I don't know why that occurred to my mind. I would play this on my DS. My Kitty Potato bought me a DS. I'm so happy. I have a horse game. I love horses. Even though, like, I need to read manual because I don't know how to play the game. I made the horse sad. I didn't want to make the horse sad.
And before I talk about the sound, I want to talk about the negative card, because really, I think its inclusion in this game is fucking awesome. Like, the ability to just not have a card take up a card slot in a game with limited card slots
Oh, Jesus,
is pretty
the
cool, and
points.
unironically actually has some synergy of its own. When you stumble upon a negative card, it'll make a sound, which is actually just a reversed version of the holographic sound effect, or at least
Okay.
pretty close. And I think that's pretty clever. Also, dude, like, you can't do this in vanilla Balatro, but, like, look at this full deck of negative playing cards.
Ooh. Slay.
Like, this is sick. Shouts out to the Cryptid mod for coming up with this idea, because these are phenomenal looking. Now, the glass playing cards, they don't really do anything special.
I'm
But the reason
seeing
I
if he
them
gets
is because
like
they have
the
a 1 in 4
chariot
chance of
tarot
shattering every
cards.
hand, or however that happens. And
I'm
the
just
glass
trying to see
shattering
which
sound,
cards
while being
there are
pretty
in
abrasive,
this.
can actually still be satisfying. in its
Of
own
course,
way.
they only have the major arcana. I don't know if they have the smaller
Polychrome
arcana.
cards are fun because they make a very
But in a way-
shiny noise when you find them.
In a
Or
way,
if
like
you
those
say
normal
X and Joker, for
cards,
example,
like
but they also make a fun
those
little
like 7/5
noise
are
when they trigger. And as I just found out,
like
foil
minor
cards do
arcana,
the
you
exact
know,
same thing.
kinda. They can be used as that, I guess.
Immeasurable, and my day is moving.
The last and maybe one of the best things
Because
here
there
to
are
talk
4
about utilizes
types,
that
you have the-
special card pack that I alluded to earlier. The spectral
I
pack.
guess.
Playing cards in Balatro can also have
Wait, you have
seals
the-
on them. Red seals
you
for
have the
re-triggering
4
both
symbols,
played and
yeah.
scored cards
They're
as well as
4,
cards in your hand, giving you this
4
wonderful
things.
sound. Gold seals for giving you
Ooh.
$3 when scored. Purple seals for giving you tarot cards when discarded, and blue seals for giving you the planet card correlating to the final hand that you played that round. You can naturally find playing cards with these seals if you open up a card pack, but you can also just force a seal onto one card by using any of their 4 correlated spectral cards. And maybe it's because
Ooh,
this is a
that
pretty
is
rare
a
sight for me to
fireplace.
see, but it might have probably the top 5, maybe even top 3 most satisfying sounds in Balatro. Now, I tell you, if I had a wax seal stamp that made that noise whenever I stamped things, dude, I'd be stamping everything I could get my hands
Why is there a
on.
to-do list in there?
Alright, back into another round. Oh, God damn it, they debuffed my spade cards. That's like my
Why?
favorite suit. That's alright, we have to make the best of what we have. And honestly, in a video like this, even having your cards debuffed has its upsides. Turns out if you try to play a card that is debuffed, it will make a sad, pathetic noise to further drill into your head that,
okay,
hey, don't
that's
play this
sad.
card, dummy. The same sort of thing applies for specific boss blinds that prevent you from playing certain hands, like the eye, the mouth, and the psychic, where you will instead hear a sound effect. The thing that I love about these 2 sound effects in particular is that they're very distinct from the rest. So even if they still have their tactile nature, as I mentioned, they don't
Okay, how
sound
do you know
nearly
which
as bright
cards you
or
have to
full of energy
play?
like everything
Oh,
else.
you
So it very much
lost.
strikes a
It
certain chord
happens,
that
I
tells
guess.
you that you did something wrong, even if you can visually see what you just did wrong. But sometimes you just played a bunch of debuffed cards because you needed to get a fresh hand of cards out, but you ran out of discards. For the love
Hmm.
of God, Balatro, stop berating me like this.
Berating? What berating
There's also
means?
a bunch of other neat little things, like food jokers making this noise when they expire, the ceremonial dagger getting its own crispy slicing sound when it deletes a joker off the face of the planet, the plasma deck getting this mildly futuristic sound when it balances your chips and bolts, the dice rolling sound effect of re-rolling a boss blind, the satisfying ticking sound of a scaling joker like Hit the Road or Runner getting scaled or reset, and there's honestly so many more things that I probably haven't even stumbled upon yet. This game just has a sound for everything, and I really do mean everything. I've had to come back to this script and add additional things maybe 4 times, just when I thought that I was already done, because there's just so many jokers in this game, so many cards, so many mechanics, so many tarot, so many planets, everything, and I just
Yeah, I
keep
guess
finding
it's
and
quite-
stumbling into new things that I didn't realize the game had a sound
Do you need
for.
to
Granted,
memorize
not
everything, or
every sound
you
is
just
good,
can
but they
play
are all
like
there. And I'd say
randomly?
about
I like to play
99.95%
randomly
of them are
sometimes.
very satisfying
Hopefully
and
it works
appropriate
like
for the
that
action at
too.
hand.
I dare you to let me build you a completely
I'm sorry
free
for this
e-commerce store.
ad, I'm sorry.
But come on, you guys know me. I'm like the music guy. You really thought I was gonna talk this entire video without mentioning the infinitely hypnotic soundtrack? Are you kidding yourself? Am I kidding myself? Who's kidding who in this situation? This
I don't know.
soundtrack absolutely bangs. It's on a constant loop all the time, and I can truthfully say, without a doubt, that it's the only looping soundtrack that I can listen for hours and have no urge to turn it off. It's the soundtrack that I can hear for hours. I have heard it for hours, watching more of this guy right here, and I still find myself head nodding before, during, and after the video is over. It's the soundtrack that I deliberately put into my iPod because it's
Ooh.
excellent background music for doing anything, and not just limited to playing poker, because if I'm honest, I am terrible at poker games, and you'll never catch me in Vegas for as long as I live. Okay, you might catch me there like
Okay.
once or twice, but I'm not gambling is the point I'm trying to make. As basically everybody and their mother knows, this soundtrack actually exists in 5 parts and employs what we call adaptive music. So you're basically getting a mini music overview from me as well. So
no, I'm planning
let's get
also,
back to
I
the
don't
game.
know, I have like MP4, but I don't know if I can fix
We start
it.
with the classic theme of this game. It
And
starts
maybe
with
put
these
some
really
of
weird
the soundtracks
chords.
I
They're
have
really
in
funky,
there,
and they don't really tie
and
themselves
music,
to
so
one
I
particular emotion.
can
They
listen
just
to
sort
it
of vibe.
anytime.
The chords open with this incredibly slow flanger effect before the drums and the bass kick in, and these two things fucking hit. The bass is playing an incredibly fun bass line that mostly sticks to the chord tones, but isn't afraid to move around like its own instrument that deserves the same amount of respect as every other instrument. Then they kick it up a notch with this wobbly
Ooh.
modulated synth playing the most iconic lead
I love the
this
art
side of the
style on
20th
this,
century,
it's
and I stand
amazing.
by that.
Ooh, what? Oh my. Okay, that's a lot of stuff.
With a much more subtle lead playing a supporting top line to add a nice flavor to the already existing delicious flavor this song has presented us with. Why do I always make food references? God damn it.
Yeah, now I'm getting hungry, bro.
Then the lead is given some time to chill out in the background while we get these sweet arpeggios, and I don't know what it is about this instrument, but its transient is just so incredibly satisfying to listen to, and it fits right in with the tactile sensation I've been talking
Tactile.
about throughout.
Tactile is funny words. Like the way you spell it, tactile. You know? Sounds cool to say.
Have an additional section right here with a little bit of syncopation, which feels only slightly off kilter given the nature of the 7/4 time signature, which I would make a big deal if it wasn't for, you know, this. I'm sure there's already a small group of people who really enjoy this music and already figured out the 7/4 time signature, but it really seems to have made a huge impact on people like this guy.
No.
No?
7/4.
But me, well, again, I've played so much Risk of Rain and listened to so much of its soundtrack that I find
okay.
normalcy in this abnormal time signature. And as a matter of fact, I think in a lot of situations, if it's done right, 7/4 sounds almost as whole and normal as 5/4, and in my opinion, a lot more normal than 5/4. But maybe that's a hot take. I don't know. And I don't want to sound like a snob when I say this. When this was playing at the Game Awards, one, it's pretty fucking awesome because an indie game like that absolutely deserves to make an appearance at the Game Awards, but also it was playing in a 4/4 time signature, and I could really feel it, and it felt more off kilter than I think how 7/4 feels to people who don't know what 7/4 music is like. The last
I don't
section to
know
talk
what
about,
is
and
this
again,
7/4
the first of
music,
5 different themes
4/4
in this
music,
one
what
fucking
is-
poker game contains a lot more of the sliding iconic
Okay, I don't
synth,
understand
and I can
anything
really
of
only
this,
attribute
but
the feeling
I'll
of
try
this
to
section
understand.
to when you're listening to a killer sliding synth in a different soundtrack, and you're kind of just air pianoing your way through it. If you're one of those weirdos like myself who likes to air instrument all of their instruments, and sometimes it kind of becomes dangerous because I do it in my car, and that's a dangerous driving condition, but don't tell nobody. There's a lot of pitch modulation, there's a lot of sliding, and there is, to say a lot of groove is even an understatement. There's also this super itty bitty tiny small little drum break section that almost catches me air drumming every time it happens, and believe me,
What
it
is
happens
that?
almost
That's
instinctively,
cute.
no matter
That-
what I'm actually
I don't
doing.
know why that looks like... I don't know what that does looks. You know, how can I explain this? It looks like a music thingy, like when you make music, or it's something like a mathematical board or something. I don't know. I'm confused. Shop team,
We've got to
okay.
the point where literally anybody
I'm sorry for
can
the
work
ads.
without knowing how to code. This is
Now, from this point forward, now that I've discussed all the bones of everything, the arrangement's basically going to be entirely the same. The blind theme was the main way to introduce all of the arrangement quirks happening, and the rest of the themes will be to just show off how different sound selections help to make the music feel ever-present without being repetitive or annoying. The blind theme was just very full sounding. And in contrast, the shop theme feels very secondary, despite how much time you'll actually end up being in the shop. The music is lacking a lot of that lower to mid frequency, despite the bass still actually
I
being
love the
there.
card
chord
design.
theme
They
sound
should make
incredibly
it
tinny
this
and
in
kind of
real
funky, yet they
life.
still have some
Like a
sense of
physical
presence in
board
space.
game,
The
that
chords
would be
also
so
just have, like, a
cool.
constant, persistent,
Right?
slow, flanger adjacent effect
Or maybe it
applied to
would
them,
be
which
too much,
creates
like
just
too
that much
many
more
cards and stuff. Maybe it wouldn't be possible. Yeah, I don't know.
When I call the music secondary, I really
But
do
it would be
mean that
cool,
the
I
music
guess.
sounds like something you'd hear casually playing in a nearby shop in a way, which, duh, it's the fucking shop theme. It's a little bit flashy, it has a little bit of funk going on, just enough to attract you in to buy something, or maybe just browse around. But it definitely feels like it has the bones of the blind theme and not the other way around. You know, in hindsight, the blind theme probably could have afforded to just be the song that plays all the time. Just because of how complex the arrangement is. It's funky time signature, it's funky rhythms, it's funky musical content, it's
Does this
funky
game,
sonic
like,
space. All these
it's a
things
question.
make it unique and diverse enough
Does this
that, honestly,
work
it would
like
eventually
Solitaire?
get the
I think
impact on while
Solitaire
you're
is
playing
probably
game,
the
because
closest
gameplay
game I
is so
can play
addicting.
with these types of cards. Okay, I don't understand what that is, but okay.
However, it's the obvious changes in the sonic space between the blind theme and the shop theme and every other theme that I
Sonic
think
space.
makes it stand out just enough in a
Sonic?
way of fascination and
Okay.
just how smoothly it blends in with each other, and the fact that it's constantly intertwining and you're going in between a bunch of different versions of it, but it's never really enough for you to like stop and pay mention to what's actually
Oh, the
going on,
lovers,
just
that's
to pay
cute.
enough mention to realize that it's a little bit different. Unless, of course, you're somebody who's like me and you kind of just get paid to analyze music and overanalyze music.
I'm just vibing. Ooh, okay. Slay.
Immediately, one of the most interesting things you're going to hear with the Arcana theme is that if you thought the main lead synth was weird in any of the other previous songs, this one is even weirder, and it and the bass are playing the bass line.
What does the voucher do? Is that a special card?
And it took me until right about now to realize that the bass was even there in the first place, because I genuinely just thought it was the weird synth playing the bass line. I think the characteristics of this synth add a bit of a bizarre feeling to this track, or I guess maybe I should say bizarre feeling.
Jesus
As a person well-versed
Christ.
in bullshitting my way through video essays, I heard this bizarre feeling, and I equate it to the feeling that, say, a white European person would feel when going to a shop that they classify as an exotic market, which could honestly be something
Exotic
as simple as going to a
market?
Mexican
Okay.
shop. The point
What is an
think of how
exotic
elusive the idea
market,
of tarot
though?
is to a lot of people, particularly Midwestern white moms for some reason. There's something kind
What?
of magical
No.
that draws them in and makes them want to invest their time and mostly their money into learning tarot and or attending tarot reading sessions. That is the kind of vibe that I think this track induces.
Oh, bro, there's just one thing. Like, you don't need to pay for lessons or pay for learning tarot. You can just buy like a tarot deck. Comes with a book there and teaches how to use the deck. Don't worry, guys. It's quite simple.
Yes, you heard me right. Balatro music can be appealing to white Midwestern moms. God, what has this channel fucking become?
And there are a ton of types of tarots, you know, with different themes, and there are ones that
This
change a
game and
little
its
bit
soundtrack have a very interesting history
the
with
numbers
me,
on the cards
mostly
and
because
stuff.
I started
And the
off
name
not
of them.
really caring that much about this game. Like a lot of content creators that I like would talk about the game because it was fucking breaking the landscape open and breaking it in half for what a video game could be, how addicting this game was. And I remember being like, yeah, I know this game is big and all, but like I don't play Yahtzee, I don't play poker, I'm not good at card
Appointment
games.
on
I'm not good
kitty
at going to
petite, you're
Vegas, hence the
adorable.
Vegas joke that I made earlier.
I
And a lot
love
of
you.
people people were like, well, you don't really have to know poker at all because this breaks the hell out of poker, but also because it explains to you very basic poker terms and hands that are really easy to understand. And then, like, instantaneously, I was like, okay, surely I have to give this a shot. And then I really liked the game, and then I started bringing a bunch of other people into the game, and then I started telling them the exact same thing.
Thinking of Balatro, it looks so cool.
Poker in order to be able to understand this game. And now,
you know, I'm kind of relating a little bit with Get Yacht, you know. I'm kind of understanding a bit because of comparing to Get Yacht, so
playing the game, and now I'm making my own
yeah,
game video
it looks
on
really
it. But like,
cool,
I remember back when I was first trying to understand this game, and I remember I would see content about the game just fucking everywhere, and the tarot theme specifically has just triggered a sense memory of bringing me back to that time. Before I was absolutely batshit insane about this game, when I was willfully ignorant about how good it actually was, the tarot theme was ironically that thing that I was hearing all the time, and it's very bizarre because it's almost like a weird sense of nostalgia, even though it's only a nostalgia from like a couple of months ago, right? Like, that's not how nostalgia works.
I don't know how nostalgia works though. I know, I love this one. No way, this is perfect. This one is perfect.
I sometimes kind of have to
that
wonder
one.
what the idea was behind making all of the hand level ups be tied to planets, and how it was decided to make certain hands tied to specific planets. But I think it's pretty cool and creative nonetheless. Also, a little part of my brain is thinking that maybe it wasn't really that deep and they just said, I like planets, I'm an astrology nerd, I'm an astronomy nerd, I'm a space guy, I'm making this cool game. There's a lot of planets, there's a lot of hands. Boom, done.
Oh, I'm sorry for the ads. Yeah, the music is cool, man.
I'm equally as curious to see how Luis was able to get this really spacey and amorphous audio without making everything feel loud and overwhelming. Because in my experience, applying enough reverb to achieve that kind of effect leaves the music sounding kind of distorted and what I would classify as untamed. A lot of artifacting, lots of weird little peaks and valleys, and a lot of harsh frequencies sticking out. But maybe it's just as simple as applying a filter to condense the music into only the mid frequencies and EQing everything but the bass so that you don't have the bass frequencies muddying up the mix. Or maybe it's some special sauce that they got over there. You know, some special
sauce?
I made another fucking food joke. The funny thing is that even in this
I can think about food now.
Sounds that sound vaguely of the Balatro theme, you can still hear the blasted slow flanger effect, proving once again that even flangers work out in space. What the fuck? Who wrote
what?
That? Nobody says that. There's also just a distinct lack of the main melody lead here, and my main guess as to why that is because it would really throw off the spacey and lethargic feeling of the track if you could still hear the lead doing all of its little weeps and whoops. And for some reason, despite the fact that I didn't put it in the Arcana theme does the same thing. You know, now that I'm kind of listening to the Celestial theme outside of the context of the game, now that I'm listening to it in isolation, I'm realizing it actually does have a little bit of overwhelmingness to it. Everything sounds like it's been blended together, rather than one particular element sticking out like a sore thumb. I'm sure at this point it has something to do with EQing the frequencies.
Well, I think actually that it's pretty relaxing and makes me feel that I'm floating and in peace. That's just how it makes me feel.
You still have a lot of situations where you're going to have a lot of stuff that's sticking up more than it needs to. And I feel like the proof is in the fact that once we get to this other section where the synths are playing a lot more sparse rhythms compared to how they are for the first couple of minutes, where it's a lot more rapid and a lot more consistent, a lot of that isn't nearly as overwhelming as the beginning portion of the song. So I think it really is just the raw sound data being thrown into it. It is a little bit overwhelming in a sense, because when you don't have as many chords being played...
I was seeing, maybe the shirt already appeared and I didn't see it, but I'm trying to see if I see the Chariot tarot cards. I like the Chariot cards.
Now that I'm listening to the song in isolation a little bit more, I was also kind of hoping that there would be like slight drum sound selection changes between the two, because I don't know what, I feel like if you replaced the snare with like a rim shot, like a nice crispy rim shot in the Celestial theme, it would be really cool. Maybe he did try that. I don't really know. I feel like, I don't know, a rim shot might be kind of cool and would actually be another thing to help kind of separate it out from everything else. Not like you really needed more to separate it out, but it would just be like a fun little nod, you know?
Ooh. chariot. There it is.
Alright, so I guess they really did just drop the
chariot.
main lead for most of these songs, with it really only being, you know, present in
Okay, I
the two.
found
And in
it.
hindsight, that might be
It's
the entire
there.
point. You only get the main lead when you're hanging out in the shop or hanging out in a smaller large blind, because that's where you're going to be spending most of your time. In the case of the boss blind, the removal of the lead and the adding of the dramatic organ, I think is what it is, it forces you to put a lot more focus on the strength of the boss in question. You can still vibe to your heart's content, but you cannot vibe that much. You have to lock the fuck in. The organ is really one of those things that took me a while to even notice. I just kind of noticed that the main lead wasn't there, and I thought that it sounded an awful lot like the Celestial theme, but without all the space.
Space. Okay, sorry for the ad again.
Most of that feeling comes from the chords specifically, as they lack a lot of the characteristics seen in the original theme, and you don't quite hear each chord being played as much, as it sort of just flows into itself most of the time. I also noticed that the bass feels like it has a lot less character to it. It just sounds like a deep, rumbling bass, and that's even more noticeable when it's hitting the root notes. For the record, I think the lack of character is a very subtle but effective way to help create enough diversity from the other themes, even if I only just recently noticed it after having to meticulously pick apart this track in isolation of the game.
How do you get those skins in the cars? Are like paid DLCs? Do you lock them or they are mods? Because I heard
I
that
also
this
gotta
has a
give
ton of
massive, absolutely
mods.
just gigantic, huge
that
shout
can
out
make,
to
like,
Dylan
the
King.
cars
He's
look
a dude I like
different.
literally just found out about through his Balatro video, kind of, sort of, doing a couple of things that I'm doing here, and he brings up a couple of interesting points about the soundtrack. One, it's apparently artificially slowed down from its original composition, which does a couple things. It reduces its sample rate, so it makes it sound more vintage, and because its sample rate is reduced, it also does what he dubbed as makes the high-end feel a little bit more tame or a little bit softer, which in general isn't technically doing anything for its vibe per se, but it does make the listening experience a lot more enjoyable for people, and probably is what makes it easy to listen to for hours and hours and hours on end. There is such a thing as like ear fatigue, and I think a lot of it usually comes from if you're listening to the exact same thing over and over again, if you're, say, a producer or a mixing engineer. But another thing is if you're listening to music that is just so incredibly loud or harsh or whatever, most normal people's brains just tend to get a little bit fatigued and kind of tired after that, and this can help to sort of fight back against that in a way.
Slay. Game over sim, okay.
Well, all good things have to come to an end at some point, and
Oh,
even
so
the music
cute. The
is still
card
technically
stall. How do
present.
you know that?
Granted, it's nothing crazy. I'm pretty sure it's just the original theme slowed down to hell, but even that has its place in this game. This slowed down version kind of reminds me of old Nintendo games. You know, the ones that would scare the shit out of you when you got a game over, almost like they were trying to fearmonger kids into getting better at their video games.
Jesus
If you took most Mario
Christ, I
themes
never
and
got
you slowed them
that
down as
yet,
much as this
because
theme is
I
slowed down while seeing
didn't
Mario,
play
quote-unquote,
much of
get on
those
the
types
floor,
of games.
Surely that would scare you as a child. But that said, the rhythm is still there. This music is actually still pretty funky, so you can still kind of vibe with the music while you contemplate why you lost your last run. And if you're a sick freak, you might even call this a slowed and reverbed version of the Balatro theme to listen to while making your 2-hour commute home in the rain. And if you are that person, I hate you. The last thing I noticed when listening to this theme is that whenever you hover over the YouTube timeline, you can actually see these little peaks and valleys where people click on and off of the video. And the funny part is that they basically all line up exactly where the current theme ends and the next one begins. It's almost like people are clicking onto the video to find the one specific theme they want to listen to for 4 minutes, or maybe like loop for 4 minutes if they can even do that, and then they just leave the video.
Okay, I guess. Oh, sorry for the ads.
I swear I'm not a fraud when I say this, but ironically I find myself spending more time watching Balatro videos than I do playing the fucking game. But I still can't help but feel a feral urge to jump on the game whenever I'm watching one of those videos and I hear any of the sounds heard in this game. Unfortunately, there isn't as much of a satisfying feel to the game when I play on mobile, since there seems to be a chain reaction that occurs where mouse click plus card click equals dopamine rush. And you can't really
Okay. Oh yeah, I know that there's like the game for the phone though, but I don't know if that's much difference. Is it really different? Don't gonna go home now. Oh my god, give me patootie! Yay! I love you. You're so adorable.
Some games
so
where
cute.
you can get at least a good idea of
Oh
the
my
feeling
god,
by watching other
Kitty!
people play.
Wow! How did he
Some
get
games
that?
that don't even
Jesus.
require that you play
It's
the
the
game
same
once you've seen someone else play it.
game
Balatro
that I
falls
know of.
squarely into its own
Okay.
category, in my opinion. A game that feels almost exactly as satisfying to watch as it is to play, and one that usually incentivizes you to jump on the game once you see somebody playing the game. Some might argue that the lack of personal agency when watching someone else play the game makes it a much worse experience for them. And honestly, I get that to a certain extent. But I think nowadays, when watching Balatro content, I kind of think to myself, if I was in this situation, I would probably do at least some of these things myself, and then I almost impart my own mental processes into the pre-recorded video that have no actual bearing on the outcome of said video.
With
Sure,
that
I
card
don't
effect
literally
purple
get the
one,
tactile
it's
experience of
cool.
clicking all the cards to play, but I can still feel the power of the cards. I can still feel the power that they hold due to their incredible sound design. Sometimes I can simply have a Balatro video
Jesus
in the background,
Christ, so
just knowing
many.
that something satisfying is happening when I hear all the clicks and the clocks. I also found them to be pretty good ear catchers when I'm editing a video and want to pop something on the screen, so the sounds are also multi-purpose, and that makes them just a little bit nicer to me. Any attentive listeners would have noticed this in the Deep Rock video, actually. In a place as chill and quiet as the space rig, it's perfectly fine to have a song that fits with the vastness, and doesn't really intrude much while you're either waiting to assemble your squad, or are waiting for your fourth teammate to come back, or are waiting for your fourth teammate
What game is this?
or are waiting for your fourth team. Since playing Balatro, and deeply listening into all the noises that everything makes, I've been honing in on every other little noise that other games make. And while none of them can even come close to holding a candle to the power that Balatro holds over my stupid ADHD brain, I'll never say no to a game if they want to add that much detail into their game's audio library.
Sound is good. Sound is slay. These little sounds are so satisfying to
Alright,
hear.
so now that I've finished analyzing one of the most arbitrary things in the Game of the Year contender, what was the point of all of this? Honestly, nothing. Because as I just found out, basically everything here is under the Creative Commons license. Not to say that there wasn't some amount of work put into these sounds to give them the Balatro flavor, but I just feel like, you know, had I known this
Wait,
earlier, I
what?
wouldn't have spent 8 or 9 pages or whatever talking about this, because now some guy is just going to show up in the comments and tell me that fact, like, dude, did you even watch the entire video? But I know the answer to that. He definitely didn't watch the whole video, because if he did, he would have gotten to this point and learned that maybe sometimes you should just watch the whole video first before immediately critiquing details on it that were clearly stated in the video. Jerry.
Who is Jerry? Balatro University, no way. Slay. So cute, look at that. Oh, so cute!
My work is easy because I use ClickUp.
I'm
Here's
sorry
how I
for
keep
the
track of
ads.
all my tasks. I start by brain dumping everything I need.
Okay, let's see. Haha, big number, go brr. Shall also mention this in order of appearance. Okay. Okay, there are the creators that appeared in the video, the timestamps. There's a summary on AI. Okay, I guess, thank you. Okay, so I guess this was the video you sent me. It was quite cool. I liked it.